Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started. We have a 6:45 meeting we're going to get started with. We'll be a few minutes, and then we'll get started with our regular council. Just stay tight, and we'll be back for our regular council in a few minutes. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to call our special council meeting to order for Wednesday, August the 12th, 2026 at 6:45 p.m. I'm going to move on. Number 2 is a declaration of pecuniary interest. Council, any members have a declaration to declare this evening? Seeing none, move on to the agenda. Approval of the agenda. We have a motion that reads the agenda for the special council meeting of August the 12th, 2026 be approved as presented. Moved by Deputy Mayor LaRose, second by Councillor Marchand. Comments and questions? Call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Council, we have 2 items on the agenda. One is regarding water wastewater labor relations update. Second is regarding microtransit procurement review and recommendations. Does anybody wish to move into close for further comments and questions? Seeing none. We'll move forward. That council move forward with without a report. Sorry, with a report. Those are added to your in-camera items. So with that, we're going to look for a motion to adjourn at 6:46. Moved by Councillor Waters, second by Councillor Drosh. All in favor? And we're adjourned. We'll be back at 7 o'clock for the regular council. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. I want to welcome you to our council meeting for Wednesday, August the 12th, 2026. I'm going to call our meeting to order at 7 p.m. Council, we have a little bit of a technical glitch this evening, so you got to bear with me a little bit. We'll start with our public service announcement. Town Hall is equipped with a fire and smoke alarm. If they do go off this evening, have you go out through the rear of the building to the back parking lot. We do have a defibrillator on site, which Chief McNeil will promptly deploy if we do need to use it. Thank you, Chief. If you do have your cell phones, we ask that you silence those. Thank you for joining us this evening. Council, we're going to move on to our land acknowledgement. Penetanguishene respectfully acknowledges that we are on the traditional and treaty territory of the Nishnabek people and their ancestors, now known as the Williams Treaties First Nations territory. This includes the Chippewa Tri-Council, comprised of Bosley First Nation, Rama First Nation, and the Georgina Island First Nation, Alderville, Curve Lake, Hiawatha, and the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation. Also once home of the Huron-Wendat and more recently the historic settlement of the Métis, Penetanguishene is now home to many Indigenous peoples. Penetanguishene is proud of its Indigenous name, and more importantly, that for thousands of years it has been and will continue to be an important homeland and gathering place for Indigenous people. We recognize that we are the stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters and are responsible to ensure that our Mother the Earth is here for future generations. Councillor DeRush, please.
Penetanguishene reconnaît avec respect que nous sommes situés sur le territoire traditionnel et de traité du peuple Anishinabek et de ses ancêtres, maintenant connu sous le nom du territoire des Premières Nations, visé par le traité Williams. Il s'agit du conseil tripartite des Chippewas, composé de la Première Nation de Beau-Soleil, de la Première Nation de Rama, de la Première Nation de Georgina Island, de la Première Nation d'Alderville, de la Première Nation de Curve Lake et de la Première Nation de Hiawatha et de la Première Nation des Mississaugas de Scugog Island. De plus, Penetanguishene était jadis le lieu de résidence des Hurons-Wendat et plus récemment d'un établissement métis historique. La ville héberge aujourd'hui de nombreux peuples autochtones. Penetanguishene est fière de son nom autochtone et le plus important du fait que pendant des milliers d'années, elle était et continuera d'être un important territoire et lieu de rassemblement des peuples autochtones. Nous reconnaissons que nous sommes les intendants et gardiens de cette terre et de ses eaux et que nous sommes responsables de veiller à ce que notre mère, la terre, soit présente pour les générations à venir.
Thank you, Councillor Rush. Again, welcome everyone. We're glad to have you here with us this evening. Council, I'm going to have us rise. Councillor Marshall, can you please guide us in the council commitment, please?
Council commitment for the town of Penetanguishene. We are grateful for the many gifts which have been bestowed upon Penetanguishene and its citizens, including the gifts of freedom, opportunity, and peace that we enjoy. May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. We ask that all in attendance and those who could not be here assist us in promoting good government. May our decisions as members of council be enlightened, and may we all be strengthened in our awareness of our duties and responsibilities. May we be granted the wisdom, knowledge, will, and understanding to preserve the good fortune of the town for the benefit of all of those and to make good laws and wise decisions. Thank you for your attendance this evening.
Thank you very much, Councillor Marshall. Councillor Roux, please.
Engagement du Conseil pour la ville de Penetanguishene. Nous sommes reconnaissants des nombreuses grâces accordées à Penetanguishene et à ses citoyens dont la liberté, les possibilités et la paix dont nous jouissons. Que nous soyons les intendants dignes de tout ce qui nous a été confié. Nous demandons que toutes les personnes présentes et celles qui n'ont pas pu se présenter nous aident à promouvoir une bonne gouvernance, que nos décisions à titre de membres du Conseil soient éclairées et que nous soyons tous renforcés à prendre conscience de nos devoirs et responsabilités, que l'on nous accorde la sagesse, la connaissance, la volonté et la compréhension qui nous permettront de préserver la bonne fortune de la ville au bénéfice de tous, ainsi que de faire de bonnes lois et prendre de sages décisions. Merci de votre présence.
Thank you, Councillor Roux. This evening, Mr. Jay Anstey, a partner with Baker Tilly, is here to present our audit. And Mr. Tilly, you'll probably be happy to know everyone's here for your presentation. Maybe not. Next time we'll have to put the audit first, staff. I'm going to read the council agenda, but before I do, if you're here and you want to address council on an item, we ask that you register with Madam Clerk. So anybody can address council about any item that you would like to address. We have you go to Madam Clerk to register to speak to council. If you're here regarding the public meeting this evening regarding 18 Court zoning bylaw amendment, you'll have an opportunity at that part of the agenda, so you don't need to register with Madam Clerk. So if you're here for 18 Wright Court, that public meeting I'll call you. If you're here for something else, I'll have you go to Madam Clerk to register for our open forum. All right, council, we have a motion that, yep. That the agenda of the regular council meeting for August the 12th, 2026 be approved as presented. It's moved by Councillor Waters, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Comments and questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That's carried. Council, does anybody have a declaration of pecuniary interest this evening? Seeing none, if you do at that time, please do let us know. Next item is our open forum. It's an opportunity for members of the public to address council something important to you. We ask that you address council. We don't have two-way debate with staff. It's an opportunity to bring up comments and questions. We limit it to 2 minutes. Madam Clerk, is anyone registered for open forum this evening?
Thank you, Your Worship. This evening, we only have one member of the public registered. It's Brenda McDonald to discuss 106 Robert Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
For the 8th time.
Thank you again, and the floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Brenda McDonald, and I live on Center Street in Penetang. I am here tonight regarding the approved sixplex development at 106 Robert Street West. This is the 8th time I've come before council on this specific site plan to express my outstanding concerns and demands. Total transparency under the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. I am formally requesting immediate access to all municipal records, approvals, and full engineering reviews related to this project, including grading, drainage, stormwater management, internal staff memos, applicant correspondence, and winter snow storage plans. Please advise me promptly of any applicable fees before proceeding. A matter of paramount urgency that remains completely unresolved is parking safety, specifically the placement, enforcement, integrity of the parking wheel stops. My outdoor sitting area, Memorial Gardens, sit directly against the fence line, immediate adjacent to the designated parking spaces. Robust wheel stops are critical to protect this active living space from vehicles accelerating through the fence. Inadequate parking barriers are a documented preventable hazard, and I urge council and staff to do your research. Furthermore, I was told by town planner who suggested taking legal action against the developer of 106 Robert Street West. It is unacceptable for the staff member to tell a resident that my only resource is private legal action against the developer. And I won't stop talking about that. As a public servant, is it not your responsibility to guide residents through the proper municipal planning process and address public feedbacks objectively, not to dismiss my concerns by deflecting them into a costly court battle? My next step is to contact the developer directly, as I lack confidence in the planning process.
Thank you. That's your time. I appreciate that.
I haven't mentioned.
Thank you.
Parking.
Thank you.
No, sorry, not parking.
Madam Clerk, there was a request about freedom of information. I know the municipality has a policy and a process about that. I suspect open forum is not the process. Can you just outline that process? And then, Brenda, before you leave, I'll have you come to Madam Clerk or the CEO for further help with that. Madam Clerk, can you just outline the freedom of information process?
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. So the Freedom of Information request is legislated. So we will require a request to be written, and staff will get back to you in terms of timeline and matters to get back to you, dependent on what you have requested that you need.
Thanks, Madam Clerk. Mr. Taylor, this was a request regarding a previous planning application. Can you just help understand where can members of the public ascertain information regarding any planning matters?
The full application materials for the zoning bylaw amendment application are available on the town's website at connectpenetangwisheen.ca/development. So all the materials that we've received as part of the zoning bylaw amendment application are publicly available, and we can happily share them. If there's additional materials that the town's received through the building permit process, then the freedom of information request would be the proper procedure for that.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Sorry, COLEs, can you make sure that the member of the public gets both our planners information, Connect Penetangwisheen, and FOI information? Thank you. Madam Clerk, anyone else registered for open forum?
There's no one else registered for open forum, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, Council, we're going to move on to the next item. Statement from members is an opportunity for Council to share with the public the work they're doing on your behalf. Councillor Leroux.
Thank you, Your Worship. Kind of a quiet month this past month. July 25th, I attended the All Things Canadian event held on our waterfront park. On August the 5th, I attended the dedication of the crosswalk at Points in Maine in recognition of our vets. And on August 10th, I attended the agenda review with Deputy Mayor and RCS Director Sherry. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Leroux. Councillor Marchand.
I'll be short and sweet. I just want to thank Councillor DeRush for attending the SSEA Q2 meeting on my behalf. I was on vacation and unfortunately wasn't able to attend the various events, but I'm back, and if you need me, you know where to reach me.
Thanks, Councillor Marchand. Councillor Vadabunker.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of things. On July 19th, I attended former Councillor Debbie Levy's celebration of life at the Brian Orser Hall. On July 27th, I chaired the Committee of Adjustment meeting, and on August 10th, the Deputy Mayor and I and the Director of Public Works participated in the Transportation and Environmental Services section meeting. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Vadabunker. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I won't repeat what was said. I was with Councillor Leroux. I was with Councillor Vadabunker. We did the things, we did the openings, but yes, July was a light month, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor DeRush.
Thank you. I attended the Wellbeing and Accessibility Committee meeting on July 9th. And then I, as mentioned by Councillor Marchand, I attended the SSEA board meeting. And I also participated at the All Things Canadian at the Rotary Champlain-Wendat Park on July 25th, which was a great day. And along with the Vice Chair, there you go, Waters. Whew. I attended the Planning Community Development Services section meeting. Thank you.
Councillor Waters, please.
All in all, pretty quiet month. We had All Things Canadian on the 25th of July. We did the crosswalk for the remembrance thing for the Legion, which I'm glad to see finally came in. It's 2 years almost to get that done. We're planning and development meetings this week, finance and corporate services meetings this week. And other than that, I had a lot of one-on-one conversations with a lot of people in town. And that'll be it.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. COLEs, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I won't reiterate All Things Canadian, as many have already noted it. Remembrance Day Crosswalk was great to see that unveiling, and certainly staff were happy to support that after some policy direction from Council. And I just commend the work of not only staff, but also the work of the Legion, who played a significant part in that tremendous project. Lots of behind-the-scenes work in terms of prepping for the Association of Municipalities of Ontario conference, and pleased, as Council is aware, with several delegations. So lots happening behind the scenes in terms of that. And then just the upcoming Seniors Barbecue on September 3rd, which I know Council is aware of, but for the community's sake, and lots of behind-the-scenes work through our Wellness and Accessibility Committee in coordinating that. So thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Thanks, Council. Thanks, Deputy Mayor, for keeping my seat warm last month. I appreciated that. A comment for our Director of Recreation, Sherry. All Things Canadian was spectacular, but the park looks amazing. Like, I'm through there almost every day, and everyone's commenting how great the park is. So thanks to you and the team for keeping the park stupendous. Council, I also participated in County of Simcoe Economic Development Strategy. County is updating their economic development strategy. As members of the public may know, we're contracting services from the county to provide economic development support, so I was able to participate in that development strategy. The CEO just mentioned about some prep work getting ready for AMO. So we did have a meeting recently with other member municipalities of Ontario. We are delegating next week at AMO regarding policing costs at the Correctional Centre, CNCC, and we did have a collaborative meeting with other municipalities. We're doing a joint delegation this year, so we've done some prep work on that. I participated, although it was brief, with the North Simcoe Business Center's annual general meeting. Our director of planning, Andrea Betty, was there as a brief because I had to get to a Legion event immediately thereafter. I also got to spend a little bit of time with staff and Dr. Brian Gaffney in town, providing us a little bit of background and support and preparation of our delegations with AMO next week. And again, we mentioned about the crosswalk. So with that being said, thank you, Council. Let's move on. The next item is proclamations. We have none. The next item is our public meeting. Before I read some statements, I just want everyone to be aware, there's no decisions tonight. So I know some people are here looking for decisions. This part of the meeting is we're looking for your feedback. So if you're here looking for a decision going left or right, that's not the outcome of tonight. Tonight is an opportunity for us to listen to you. So I just want to set the stage. If that's your expectation, you might be disappointed. But we do encourage you to speak. We need to be part of the process. We need to hear what your thoughts and feelings are on the application. The planner will identify correspondence that we've already received, but this is your meeting. Okay, so this again is regarding 10A. It's the public meeting regarding 18 Court, Right Court zoning bylaw amendment. So this is a public meeting under the Planning Act to consider an application to amend the Town of Penetanguishene zoning bylaw 2022-17 to council. The purpose of this public meeting is to provide an opportunity for the public to make comments. The purpose of this public meeting is not to engage in a debate or to be a question and answer session. To the public, this is your opportunity to provide feedback concerning the application, and we encourage you to do so. Owen, Mr. Taylor, I'm going to ask if you can kindly introduce the application. Can you please confirm whether or not notification has been provided, and you can please advise about any correspondences that have been received.
Thank you, Your Worship. The application for official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment is concerning the property at 18 Right Court. The applications are intended to facilitate the development of a 6-story rental apartment building containing a total of 156 residential units with a small commercial space. Special exceptions are requested to the zoning bylaw and the official plan in order to permit the height of 6 stories, as well as special exceptions related to minimum lot frontage, minimum lot area, minimum parking requirements, maximum building height, and the permission for a commercial use on the property. Notice of the public meeting was provided on July 23rd in accordance with the Planning Act and the town's policies. Correspondence received to date is included on the council agenda under item 14A. Further correspondence was published through an addendum to the agenda on Monday, also under number 14A of the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. I'm going to ask if the applicant or the agent is present, if they would like to make a presentation regarding this application. Welcome, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Council, members of the public, and those in attendance tonight. My name is James Hunter of Morgan Planning Development. So we are the planners and project managers for the applicant. We're here tonight for the statutory public meeting for 18 Right Court on behalf of Right Court Developments, Inc. So to provide an overview of the subject lands, so the property is noted on this slide is 18 Right Court. This is located with the town of Penetanguishene. The existing uses on the property includes a vacant property with no existing buildings or structures, and has a site area of 2.5 acres and a frontage of 20 meters on Right Court to the south, and an additional 20 meters of frontage on municipally owned Copeland Street right-of-way that is not undeveloped, and that is on the east side of the property. So right now the existing access to the site is provided by Right Court, which is a local dead-end municipal roadway. Next slide. For a locational context, To the north is an established low residential neighborhood. To the east is also an existing low-density residential neighborhood with a municipally owned parcel fronting frontage on Copeland Street. To the south is an established residential dwelling fronting Wright Court and Leahy Crescent. Further to the south is also a mix of low-density and medium-density uses, including single detached dwellings and townhomes. And to the west is an established residential neighborhood with institutional and commercial uses located further southwest along Maria Street. To provide an overview of our proposed development, so the applications we're here tonight on behalf for the public meeting is official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment applications. Those are needed to support the proposed development, which is a 6-story mixed-use building. This is targeted for an apartment building, so to clarify, that's a rental apartment building. So what we're looking to do is support residential intensification within a town's built boundary, and this ultimately will provide new rental and attainable housing projects or housing units. So the development summary is 156 purpose-built rental units. Approximately 35% of those units are affordable housing, which is about 55 units. This comes from both a provincial and county and township push to provide more affordable and attainable housing units within Canada and the province of Ontario. The current design right now has a mix of 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and accessible or barrier-free units. So what we're looking to do is target young families all the way to older generations that might need a barrier-free unit. And we also have a complementary neighborhood residential commercial space, which is located in the southeast corner of the site. So with that, that's 183 meters squared, or to simplify that, about 1,900 square feet. We're not sure on the exact use of that yet, but the intention is to complement the neighborhood and provide amenities for the residents. Ultimately, this has a residential density of 152 units per hectare. And something that we would like to note related to the building height. So if you look at this property through further topographic reviews, it varies about 9.2 meters north to south. So on the south side, which is the commercial and the lobby, which is the bottom of our slide, that portion of the building would actually be 3 to 4 stories. And then as you work down the natural topography of the site, the building would kind of come out of grade. So 3 to 4 stories on the bottom. And then as you work towards the north, that'd be the 6 stories with 1 level of underground parking. On this slide here, you can see an overview of the site design and built form. This shows the conceptual renderings of the subject lands with landscape buffers provided, the parking area, and the built form. So what we're looking to do is have a primary access from Wright Court to the south, and there is a proposal right now for secondary access on the east side of the property, and that's subject to some negotiation with the town, as that portion of the land is municipally owned. What we're looking to do is a combination of underground and surface parking, and that has reduced parking rates reflecting the purpose-built rental housing options. Within that, again, we noted a 6-story building height, which is the 21 meters. The 21 meters includes the mechanical penthouse, so the 6 stories itself is 18 meters plus the other additional 3 meters, which is mechanical equipment, and that's located interior to the roof. We also have approximately 335 meters squared of outdoor amenity space, and we're looking to include indoor amenity areas as well. Around the perimeter of the site, a key item that we've done is there's a 5 to 6 meter range of a perimeter landscape buffer. So the intent is to maintain all landscaping around the perimeter of the site and also replant that to enhance landscaping and buffers through our future application. To highlight some considerations with the development, as we noted, so towns and town, municipal, and county level objectives include purpose-built rental. So the purpose of this is more affordable and attainable housing options. We have 35% of our units proposed within that range. As I noted, we're looking to accommodate for a range of residents, including seniors, young professionals, smaller households, and individuals seeking attainable housing options. This is an intensification project in the terms of planning policy. So considerations include building setbacks and orientation, massing and architectural articulation, and landscape design and buffers. These matters have been included in our application on a conceptual level, but just to be clear, there's still quite a planning process, including the site plan control and the building permit application, so we can't actually build a building until that design aspect is completed. So again, to highlight that for the next components, through some of the studies that have been completed, there's some transportation impact study comments that we will need to look at and address. We have got confirmation that there is municipal services available. Further detailed design will occur throughout this process. The development does include LAD measures, so that's an efficient way to increase the engineering components of the site, improve infiltration and stormwater management. And as we noted, so following OPA and ZBA approval, which is what we're considering tonight, and this is just the presentation component, we have to complete the site plan control and the building permit applications. So there's quite a lot of detailed design that needs to occur through that process before we actually get approvals to build. To provide a planning overview, so the subject lands are within the town of Penetanguishene, which is a primary settlement area in the context of the County of Simcoe official plan. We are designated neighborhood area, and we are currently zoned residential 1. So the first application that we're speaking here to you tonight is the official plan amendment application. That's the first of 2. So we're looking to designate the subject lands from neighborhood area to a neighborhood area exception. So that exception policy is a permission for increased density and height, including a 3-story to a 6-story building. And ultimately, this aligns with the township's objectives to provide additional residential units, intensification, and proper growth. So to accompany the OPA, we also need our second application, which is a zoning bylaw amendment. So with that application, the current zone right now is residential 1 holding. The residential 1 is a single detached low density zoning, and what we're looking to do is rezone the property to a residential 3 exception. So the residential 3 exception is a zone that's appropriate in the town for medium and high density development, including apartment buildings. So with our zoning framework, what we're looking to do is site-specific provisions, which also includes a maximum building height of 21 meters or 6 stories, where the current zone in the R3 permits 14 meters or about 4 to 4.5 stories. Other performance standards related to the lot area, lot frontage, and some other refinements to parking. And then ultimately, this process, as we noted, this sets the framework for planning policy, and then the detailed design process works on the building design and site design itself. So as many of you have read, and we do have the comments, with our application, we do have a number of professional studies that were completed to support the application. As I noted, as we evolve through this process and go through the site plan process, these studies are all going to be refined based on the development that we end up doing. A lot of professionals have taken time to prepare these, and they're not final, so they are up to review through the municipality. Also, we have reviewed the comments. Like I said, we note all the comments on these studies, and we have to submit a second application to the municipality. So as Mr. Taylor noted, all of these studies will be available through the town, or probably are, as many of you have commented on. So we do take all of those comments, we provide them to our professional consultants, and then they have to provide a response or revise the studies. So in conclusion, what we're looking for tonight is some feedback and comments related to our proposed development, which is the 6-story apartment building, 156 units with 35% affordable housing. So again, this is an intensification project within lands of a settlement area. The proposed development has been supported by technical studies, again, which are under review. And the policy support for this is consistent with provincial, county, and municipal objectives for complete housing, housing diversity, and sustainable growth. I think it's important to note, as your worship mentioned, we do have quite an extensive list of comments that planning staff have provided to us. So we do have all of the comments that the members of the public have provided. So our team is reviewing that in detail. At a certain point, we will provide a second submission back to the municipality, and we're required to respond to all of those comments. I don't have all those answers with me tonight. So thank you for hearing my presentation, and I'll sit down, but happy to answer any questions directed my way.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to open the floor to members of the public to come to the podium. I'm going to ask you to state your name and your address for the record. Later in the agenda, item 14A, council is going to hear a motion, and it's called matters for consideration. We're going to ask staff to bring a report back, and that report back is going to answer a lot of the questions that came forward, and they're going to work with the development application. So just so you know, that's what the process will look like this evening. So I'm going to ask if anyone in the audience wishes to make any comments regarding the application based on land use plan and issues relevant to the application. Please state your name and address for the record, and I'll make your way to the podium, please. The floor is yours.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. My name is Jamie Robiar. I live at 10 Copeland Street in Penetanguishene. So my property backs right onto the proposed development. As you're aware, my wife and I have submitted a very detailed letter to all of council and to several key staff members of the town of Penetanguishene a couple of weeks ago. Mayor Rawson asked me if I was going to read that whole document. No, I'm not reading 19 pages. I'm just going to highlight a few of my concerns, or our concerns. And that document wasn't just put together by myself, although I was the one that actually wrote it. A lot of consultation in the neighborhood and speaking to some people who have a lot more knowledge of this type of thing than I certainly do. I now know more about the official plan of Penetanguishene than I ever thought I would or really wanted to be quite frank. So there's some major concerns brought forward with our letter. The planning justification report contradicts the town's official plan in many areas, such as reducing the minimum lot size for this project from 30,570 square meters to the property size of 10,269 square meters. This is inappropriate based on the bylaw to ensure the appropriate land use ration. The request to reduce the required parking from 279 spaces to 160 spaces will likely result in a shortage of parking spaces and lead to cars being parked on local streets. A building with 156 units will inevitably have multiple visitors and support workers each day and every day at many hours of the day. So if there's not enough parking, those people will end up parking on the two streets, in particular Copeland and Wright Court. The request to increase the height of the building to 6 stories in a neighborhood that consists of single-family 1- and 2-story homes contradicts the official plan, where new development should be compatible and fit the fabric of the neighborhood. The request to use 2 local roads, and the key word here is local roads, to access a property is also a contradiction of the official plan for such a high development, a high-density development. A high-density development should have direct access to a major artery. The closest major artery is Thompson Road, and it does not have direct access. It has to go through 2 local roads. This proposal also doesn't include any safety areas for pedestrians, such as sidewalks, bike paths, those type of amenities that currently do not exist on Wright Court or Copeland Street. And if you're going to add 156 units, pardon me, you're creating a lot more pedestrian traffic in our neighborhood. When we built our home in the town, I'm talking Elaine and I, 30 some odd years ago, we did question the developer at the time of what the property was zoned. It was zoned R1. R1, of course, everybody is aware, is single-family home dwellings. So with that in mind, we were quite aware that the property behind our house would be developed someday and have no issue with a development being built on that property. It's just that we don't understand how a 6-story development meets the strategy of the town's official plan on this piece of property. Our quiet neighborhood, and I hear that from many people in our neighborhood plus visitors to our neighborhood, will not be so quiet if 156 units come into existence in our backyard. When I say our, I'm talking, generally speaking, all the people in our neighborhood. And it's squeezed into a very small space. Our letter to council asks many questions that need to be answered and clearly shows the proposed development does not meet the official plan. So as everyone on council and the members of the town staff have received the letter, it is quite extensive. It asks multiple questions that at some point in time I hope get answers to all of those. I want to thank you for your consideration of this matter and hope that council will deny the zoning bylaw amendments and the official plan amendments requested for this project and reject the current proposal at 18 Wright Court. This is truly a developer trying to squeeze a very large square peg in a small round hole. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I'll ask if there's anyone else in the audience who wishes to address this matter. Welcome and thank you for being here. I'll have you state your name and address for the record, please, and then the floor is yours.
Good evening. My husband and I, Peter and Nancy Henster, live at 34 Edward Street. We moved up here 14 years ago from Barrie to live in a nice, quiet area. And what we've heard and seen so far is going in reverse, you know. And what I'd like to know, my husband and I have hired a Todd Ricketts engineer at Greystone Engineering, and we'd like to know about the drainage system. What is going on there? And it is not yet shown on the site grading plan and where that is to be proposed to go. That's a very big factor with the water issue on Edward Street and from behind where the trees were that are not there now, which makes a big difference in the water coming down. And also there will be a wall put up, you know, when you build in that. So we'd like to know about that wall that's going in there as well. So we both feel that this is, you know, important factors to be looked into and to be concerned about everyone with the water issue, you know. So there's more, but that's what my husband and I are very concerned about.
Thank you for your comments. If anyone else wishes to make comments, just make your way to the podium. I'll have you state your name and address for the record, please, and the floor is yours.
My name's Ted Waters. I'm at 35 Ann Street. I believe that most yous, or not most yous, I've been told multiple times that a lot of yous have had a beer in my backyard with Mike DeBow. I'm sure that yous all realize that it was a nice property, very quiet, secluded. Now it's a big open field with about 6 foot high ragweed instead of the nice pine trees that were there. I'm worried about the overshadowing with my pool area, that a 6-story building is going to eliminate all sunshine in my backyard. And that's where I stand with this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'll ask again if anyone in the audience wishes to make any comments about the application. Please make your way to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please. I'm going to try to keep everyone here, Jay, for your presentation.
Good evening, Council. I'm Susan Robillard, and I live at number 12 Copeland Street. I don't want to go over everything where I completely agree with the presentation from Jamie Robillard. He and I live on opposite sides of what is the road allowance, the current road allowance. The thing that troubles me is that council, in the past and present, they've worked very hard on developing official plans for the town so that that would provide all kinds of guidance for future development and everything. And I think it's important that those official plans are honored because they are developed to meet community needs and desires. The suggested amendments that have been presented this evening are like a slap in the face to the residents of the town. And Your Worship, I would like to say that if, to the residents through you, if this can happen to us in our little neighborhood area where the density is increased to unbelievable limits and all of this kind of development happens in something that's already zoned R1, then nothing nothing is sacred. It could happen anywhere in town. This development is better suited to the main arterial roads that have already been designated, for instance, Thompson Road, Fuller, and even Fox, rather than start to infringe on a neighborhood where the numbers that you're looking at are absolutely crazy. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your comments. Anyone else wishes to address the applicant? Yep. Have you state your name and address for the record, please, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship, Council. I'm Ryan Guthrie. I live at 20 Wright Court, so I'm adjacent to the proposed commercial section. My concerns relate to snow clearing. In our current configuration, we don't have a full cul-de-sac, so the snow actually gets deposited on 18 Wright Court currently. Under the proposal, it's obviously a private road. There's no ability for any snow storage where we're going to put this material. The cul-de-sac is really a partial cul-de-sac. That was a temporary measure that was put in 1996. Here we are 30 years later, the plan's changing. We don't have the capacity right now. As it is, we're hauling that material out. If this becomes a private drive or any of that snow, so that is a concern. Also, there's limited visibility when you're trying to make a left onto Thompson, and or you're coming over the crest heading towards Fuller Avenue. You have to constantly be watching your mirrors because the tractor trailers are cresting over that hill with limited sight lines, so that is a major concern. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Sarah, is there anyone online that wishes to address this item?
Thank you, Your Worship. We have no one online this evening.
Thank you. Floor is yours. I'll have you state your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Haley Geddes at 7 Copeland Street. I'll pretty much agree with everything that was on Jamie's proposal there, or questionnaire. And the one thing that hasn't been brought up is house values. Nearing retirement myself, our homes are our biggest investments. And I just think that's something that needs to be taken into account, that putting a building like that, especially for those affected right beside it, will devalue. And I think it would be wise to recognize that we are a small town, we're not Toronto, and there are more responsible places for such said building of proposal. And that's it.
Thank you for your comments. I'll ask again if anyone in the audience wishes to make any comments about the application. Make your way to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please. And I'll ask one more time. Is there anyone in the audience wish to make any comments regarding the application based on land use planning issues relevant to the application? Please make your way to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please.
I hate public speaking, so bear with me. My name is Ashley Mann. I live at 6 Copeland Street here in Penetang, so I don't directly back onto the proposed property, but I'm pretty darn close. I've lived in Penetang since 2019, and I bought this property with the intention of it being my future long-term home, and ideally a future home for family, small kids, little ones bouncing around. One thing I don't think has been brought up yet, because I think I'm on the younger side of the group. With the parking and the overflow of pedestrians, all the traffic, Mr. Guthrie correctly brought it up. Right out onto Thompson is a very wicked turn with the sight lines and everything else. I really expect it's going to pool down that L-shaped crescent there into Copeland Street and out onto the side streets. I have major concerns as far as just the traffic flow, property, cars in front of us, the safety of little ones, kids. We have no sidewalk, we have nothing else there for us. And quite frankly, I wouldn't have bought my house if I'd realized we were gonna put a 6-story building right behind it. That was not what was promised by the town planning. Everyone else is much more articulate, much more factual. I'm just a bit sentimental, but I am quite disappointed if this goes through. That'd be my bad. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Again, I'll have you state your name and address for the record, please. The floor is yours.
I'm Doris Herbert. I'm living on N Street, 37. For me, a big thing is normally we have comparison. And where's the comparison? Do we have any other 6-story buildings in this town, in this small little town? And the next thing is, do we have to put 6 stories on almost the highest point in Penetang that it sticks out like a finger? You come from the water and all you see is not the church anymore. No, this wonderful building up there. Something to concern.
Thank you for your comments. I'll ask if there's anyone in the audience who wishes to make any comments about the application. Make your way to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please. I'll ask again, does anyone in the audience wish to make any comments regarding the application based on land use planning issues relevant to the application? Please make your way to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please. Seeing none, council, I'm going to ask if there's any comments or questions regarding the information that's been presented. Councillor Vadabunker.
Thank you. I want to understand the rationale behind the commercial component in the building. I have other concerns about the height and other things, but what really struck me was with respect to the commercial. I just want to understand it because with commercial along Main Street and very close proximity to the development, what was the rationale behind the proposed? I think you said 1,800 square feet commercial. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vadabunker. Any other comments or questions from council? Seeing none. I'm going to ask if there's any concluding comments from our applicant regarding the information that's been presented this evening.
Thank you for your opportunity, Your Worship. This is just one of the stacks of paper I have. I'm just going to say we're going through it. We take these comments seriously. We're going to break everything down, work towards a second submission, work with our development group, council, staff will see that resubmission, and we'll make sure that's circulated as well to the public at the provided time. So I don't want anyone to think that we dismiss these comments, that we're not taking it serious. We really do. We're going to take a look at it and we'll come back with another submission. So thank you for everyone for attending tonight. As well, sorry, one more comment. You know, we do have a lot of comments. We appreciate them all. We understand the importance of this community. Something that we haven't seen in a lot in the comments are recommendations or suggestions on our development besides impacts or other values. Is there another kind of built form you'd like to see? Is there a specific density you'd like to see, a certain height, or alternatives? You know, in the neighborhood, there's a lot of older single detached homes. Those have been there since like the early 1900s. Across the street, we've got new developments, including townhomes, 3 to 4 stories. We're working on market assessments right now, just to make sure that we've got the ideal development proceeding. At this point in time, we've had a lot of push from both the provincial and the county levels to provide more affordable housing projects. So that's what our group is looking to do. But we would really appreciate if members of the public have any comments on that, please send it to staff. They send it to us right away. So we just want to thank you for everything.
Thank you very much. Mr. Taylor, I'm going to ask you if there's any concluding comments on this application from you. And if you don't mind, Mr. Taylor, can we just inform the public, how can they be involved? How can they receive information? Can you just give them an idea what next steps could look like and how members of the public can stay informed about this application?
Thanks, Your Worship. So tonight is just the public meeting. This is where we receive feedback. The feedback that we receive tonight will be forwarded to the applicant for consideration. They will resubmit to the town, and at that point, staff will return with a recommendation report to council that will be considered, and at that point, council make their decision. The best way to stay informed is to visit the town's website at connectpenetanguishene.ca/development. That's where the updates on the application as it proceeds through the process will be posted. We also post any resubmission materials that the town receives to that website so you can stay informed. If we have your your address or your email address, then you will be notified of council's decision either by mail or by email. We do recommend that you provide your email address to staff so we can ensure that you're notified when that recommendation report comes back in front of council, so you know in advance when council will be making their decision.
Thanks, Mr. Taylor. And just for members of the public, when that report comes forward that Mr. Taylor identified, there will be another opportunity for you to participate and provide further comments and feedback about the process. Just that you know this isn't done. This is the first step of that process. I did identify a little while ago, stay tuned because we have our audit and Mr. Anstey would love you to stay, but after that we'll do 14A, which where council will ask staff to bring back future reports. So Mr. Anstey would appreciate you hanging around. This concludes the public meeting, so thank you for your attendance and participation in our public meeting. Council will consider this application results of the public meeting at a future committee of the whole meeting. If you'd like to be notified of this meeting, council's final decision, please contact our Planning and Community Development Department. And with that, we're going to move on, council, to 11A, which is our delegations and presentations. We do have a presentation which you all want to stay for. Please, Jay Anstey is here from Baker Tilly. Jay, thank you, to present our 2025 year-end audit. Thank you and welcome. Jay, have you ever had this many people here for an audit? It's an audit.
You really don't have to stay for this. I'll give you all a few minutes with an opportunity to leave. I don't mean to override you, Your Worship. But
Jay, I tried so hard.
I'm not that interesting. Carrie, I always have your support.
All right, if you're here to talk to staff about the last planning application, if you're here to speak to staff about the planning application, I'll just have you bring the noise down. We're going to continue with our council meeting. Mr. Anstey, the floor is yours. Thank you for being here to present our 2025 audit financial statements.
Great. Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. Great to, I appreciate the attempt, but I'm not always the most interesting topic. It is great to be here to present the 25 audit results. We are here presenting the financial statements as well as some financial indicators included in our report, as well as the results of the audit. Ultimately looking for a approval from council, as approving the draft financial statements is the final step in the audit to have them issued final. Included in the agenda package are 2 reporting letters that go over the results of the audit, and I will start the presentation by commending Treasurer Robillard and her Treasury team on a really excellent audit. Generally, this has been a smooth audit process with this audit team, but in this year, we generally expect to find some adjustments throughout the course of the audit, but there were no required adjustments throughout the audit, and that is particularly unusual. So excellent audit, not just in preparation to make the audit go smooth, but indication that the books and records are clean throughout the year. So a very good, clean audit, and that's what the audit reporting letter does provide. There is one small adjustment that we found that is included in the letter, but for the nature, size, and timing of when we found the adjustment, it was very immaterial to the audit, so it wasn't corrected, but will get corrected in next year's financial statements. So again, very clean audit, as well as the management letter, that if we identified any internal control recommendations, we would report those in that letter, and that's what we call a clean management letter with no recommendations to report. So a great audit overall. In terms of highlights of the financial statements, I'll start with the consolidated statement of operations. And overall, the operating year, the town was in line with budget as set by council for the year. Of course, the budget set by council and the financial statements do have differences between internal reporting requirements and what is required for public sector accounting standard reporting. So there are some differences, and the prime example is use of reserves, where council budgets that to fund certain activities during the year. In audited financial statements, we don't consider that a revenue source. So those types of differences do exist between the internal budget that you would be used to seeing. Otherwise, again, generally in line with budget. Operating revenues, well, they are $2 million higher than budget, as presented here. $525,000 of that was from investment income higher than budget, as well as water and wastewater revenue that was $560,000 higher than budget, just based on annual usage and an increase in the rates that did occur after the budget was set during the year. Operating expenses, again, as I say, we're in line with budget. One thing to note is the financial statements here show the internal budget set by council, while the annual audited financial statements include amortization expense, which is the year-end accounting adjustment to depreciate capital assets. And so that's the main difference between budget and actual presented here, as well as other just standard operating variances. More considerable one was snowplow operations budget. With the winter that we had was over budget just as a result of simple annual activity that occurs throughout the year. And finally, capital revenues of $1.1 million. This is specific revenue that is earned during the year for capital projects and is invested in the tangible capital assets of the town. Looking at the financial position at the end of the 2025 fiscal year, as an overall for the town, I would say that the financial position is stable with consistency year-over-year balances, and the provincial financial indicators that I will go over today will indicate that the town is largely in the low risk range in essentially all areas that we are reviewing. In front of us, we have the financial assets, again with a consistent year-over-year balance. The cash balance of $12 million. 5.2 million of this is restricted, with requirements to be used on deferred revenue such as development charges and other obligatory reserve funds. In terms of unrestricted cash that's available, there's enough cash to cover current liabilities 3 times over, is what this provincial indicator is showing, and that's well above the low risk range of ensuring that you have at least half of the liabilities covered. So again, it's plenty of cash flow, no liquidity risks in the town that we're seeing. One area that we have seen increase that is a general trend across the county and essentially all municipalities that we are auditing is the taxes receivable increase. You'll see they have increased $815,000 or 45% year over year. And this represents 11.8% of the taxes levied in 2025. In 2024, this was 8.4%. This is a trend we are seeing across the county. It's not unique to Penetanguishene, and just it's an affordability and economic indicator more than a township issue that we are seeing those balances increase. Looking at liabilities, again, very consistent year over year, with the only decreases being in standard accounts payable and accruals, and this is simply as a matter of timing, as well as the regular repayments of long-term liabilities. An important liability, as I always mention, is the deferred revenue and obligatory reserve funds. This balance of approximately $5 million does include future funding, future commitments to spend the money in a certain way as required by the Development Charges Act or other grant funders. During the year, there were $543,000 of obligatory liabilities collected, but there was also $686,000 used on capital projects. So overall, a consistent balance, but with a fairly significant fluctuation within the balance. 2 significant accounting estimates that are on the financial statements are employee future benefits and asset retirement obligations, and these are requirements to record these potential liabilities and estimates in the future, but they are non-cash projections of a future liability that the township is required to fund at a certain point, and as well as long-term liabilities, which I refer to here, which There was no new long-term liabilities acquired over the year. The two remaining debentures that the town does have outstanding are the sewage treatment plant and Main Street reconstruction debentures, which have both been in existence since 2018. And the long-term liabilities also do include the town's share of the Huronia Airport Commission's long-term liabilities as they are consolidated in these financial statements. In terms of a risk range in long-term liabilities, there's two indicators that we look at. The graph in front of us shows the debt servicing cost as a percentage of the township's own revenue, so taxation and user charges, and comparing how much of that that money goes towards servicing debt, and it's only 3.4%. So in the low risk range, and again decreasing as we're seeing those long-term liabilities extinguished. And the other indicator is the repayment limit, where the town has a limit set by the province on how much it can repay towards long-term debt each year. And that's 25% of own source revenue, or $5.3 million in the 2025 fiscal year, and with only $721,000 spent on servicing debt, principal, and interest. This is only 13.5% of the repayment limit. So lots of repayment limit left to available if future long-term liabilities were required. So when we compare those total financial assets compared to the total liabilities in a year, the net debt, overall we are in a net debt position. It sounds scary, but that's not a liquidity issue. As I mentioned on the financial assets, there's plenty of liquidity. There's cash to cover the liabilities. Reminded that total liabilities includes long-term liabilities. It includes those accounting estimates, so it's not that we need the cash next year to pay off our net debt. This is just an overall financial snapshot. You can still have a net debt and be in a low risk range, which we see here on this slide. And it's important to note that the net debt has continually been decreasing over the past several years, moving towards net financial asset position. The last piece of the financial position is the tangible capital asset balance. Again, the largest line on the statement of financial position, with $104 million invested in the town's tangible capital assets. These being the bricks and mortar, the roads, the infrastructure, the vehicles, equipment, all of the asset the town owns to carry out its operations. So during the year, there was a net $1 million increase of tangible capital assets. This was $5 million of additions, and this is spending on some major items such as intersection upgrades at Robert and Fuller Street, the Roads Division Car Wash Bay, and the reconstruction of the Public Works Sand Dome. Those are some of the larger ticket items. And this is offset by the amortization expense that I mentioned in the statement of operations, so that accounting estimate depreciation of assets over its useful life, as well as $500,000 of disposals, and those are a result of the sand dome being replaced. And then some equipment being replaced as well. So those are the types of disposals we see. Again, the financial indicator here, we are in the low risk range and showing how much of the town's overall useful life has been used up of these tangible capital assets. So 35% of the useful life has been used on average. Always important to drill down, and Treasury does maintain a detailed list on an asset by asset basis of how much of the useful life is left of an asset, and that helps contribute to the town's asset management plan. And finally, a look at the reserve and reserve fund balances as of the end of 2025. We see $11 million total in reserves and reserve funds, and $100,000 net increase year over year. And this was $3.7 million of reserves utilized during the year, but then offset by about $3.8 million allocated back to reserves for the net increase. One of the reserve funds lines is the funds to be replenished, and this is from the sale of the Hydroelectric Commission several years ago, where it is tracked and borrowed from to fund certain projects. You will see this balance of $3.6 million, and this is a result of $1.15 million of new borrowings from that reserve, from the sale of the Hydroelectric Commission proceeds, and that was mainly to fund the garage and wash bay. But this is offset by the regular scheduled repayments of $304,000 that is done via the levying of taxes and the annual revenue of the town during the year. Looking at the provincial indicator, reserves represent 47% of annual operating expenses, so well into again, in the low risk range that technically would only need to cover 20% of annual operating expenditures in the reserve. It is important to note that this is all reserves, and obviously there's a difference between current reserves used available for taxation offset or things of that nature, more of an operating and capital purposes. So it is important to consider that for tangible capital asset replacement, but also important to note that this council and Treasury staff have contributed to those types of capital reserves, including $780,000 from the water wastewater surplus during the year that goes back to reinvest in its own capital repairs and replacement, as mandated by the province, that all surpluses of water wastewater operations do go back for that purpose, as well as $483,000 specifically budgeted and allocated to the capital reserve, and another $568,000 allocated to the multi-use rec center reserve. So planned budgeting and allocation to the capital reserves, which is important to see as that is an important mandate for future councils as well. Those are the highlights that I wanted to go over. I'm happy to field any questions, but I'll turn it back to you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you being here and presenting. I always look forward to the audit, and I think this was a great one. I know we had a lot of people that were here, but you asked them to go. Not that we're competitive here much, but we've given Brian some comments about grand slams and home runs this year. But Carrie, this to me is like World Series grand slam. Great job. I think Mr. Anstie commented about the great work you and the team have done. We probably don't give you enough credit. So great work. And I think, Mr. Anstie, you have identified that in the work that's done throughout the year. Carrie, thank you. Council, comments and questions? Councillor Waters.
Yeah, I had a question about the taxes receivable. It's about $800,000 increase in receivables. Is there a reason for that? Is that just because we're only partway through the year, or do we have some debts that we may not be collecting?
Carrie, do you want to take that?
Through you, Your Worship, to answer that question and to add to what Jay has already stated, we did present a report to Committee of the Whole a few months ago, and it's always a snapshot, so it's always changing. And I would say that at year end, when we cut off the year end, we have transferred a lot of other charges to tax accounts. So it's not necessarily taxes in arrears. It would be other charges that then are deemed to be taxes that we've been added, that we've added to some of the tax accounts. In particular, there was a deferred development charge, a couple installments that weren't paid at the time, and they've since been paid, and that was they sold the property and it's since been paid. So there's other examples where we do add other charges, property remediation to tax accounts. So I think that has to do with the large increase, in particular at that particular time, that snapshot.
Thank you. Good. Okay. Any other comments or questions, Council? Councillor Vedabunker.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Mr. Anstie, for your presentation. Just one question, and a former colleague of mine used to ask this question quite often as well, and I'll ask it tonight. How would you describe the financial health of the municipality?
Yes, through you, Your Worship, and I do believe that might have been from another municipality that you've heard that one before as well, but yeah, again, I will say consistent and stable is really, as I started off the presentation as well, seeing that consistency and no large spikes and no increases in the risk indicators indicates that you're stable and continuing to move in the right direction. Again, Penetanguishene is one of the smaller municipalities that we audit, and we audit municipalities throughout Simcoe County. So there are some others with, like, I wasn't going to say large reserve balances starting to be built up, and you will see that in some of the provincial indicators that there are some municipalities that are starting to build those up. But overall, Penetanguishene for its size and I think the results speak to the stability and consistency of it.
Thank you.
Council, further comments or questions? Thank you, Ms. Ransom. We appreciate you being here. Carrie, great job to you and the team. Thank you for the work and providing consistent, steady stability of our operations. So thank you. Council, we have a motion that reads that the 2025 consolidated financial statements be approved. It's moved by Councillor Vadabonker, seconded by Councillor Marchand. Comments and questions? Seeing none, we're going to call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that's carried. Council, we move on to 12, is the adoption minutes not already confirmed. The motion reads that the following minutes of council meetings be confirmed and adopted as circulated. We have special council July the 8th, 2026, and council for July 8th, 2026. Moved by Councillor LaRue, second by Councillor Marchand. Comments and questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. 13 is our consent agenda. We have nothing this evening. 14 is matters for consideration. We have one item. It's regarding the background of the public meeting for 18 Wright Court. The motion reads that the public meeting report PL 2026-36 concerning 18 Wright Court be received, and that any matters identified in report PL 2026-36 and at the public meeting and by council be addressed in the future reports. Moved by Councillor Roux, seconded by Councillor Marchand. Comments and questions? Councillor Vadabonker.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship, to our planner. Mr. Robillard, in his presentation, mentioned that in the correspondence that he submitted, there were a number of questions that were asked. Will those questions be answered? And if they will be, who will be answering them?
Thank you, Councillor Vadabonker. Mr. Taylor.
Through to Councillor Vadaboncourt. Staff will be pleased to provide a response to Mr. Robillard to his questions outlined in his letter. Staff will also provide an overall response to all of the different concerns that we heard this evening through the future report to Council.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Council, any further comments or questions? Mr. Taylor, I have one I'd like to be considered to be added to the future staff report. There's a comment tonight about 35% of the bill will be for affordable. And I'd like to understand, what does affordable mean? Which programs is applying to? Is this market? Is it CMHA? Is it rent geared income? Is the county involved? So I'd like to understand, what does affordable mean? And how are we going to assure that for future generations it will remain affordable? So I'd like to understand that. The County of Simcoe does great work in this area. I'm sure they can help. They talked about partnership. I'd like to understand, what does that partnership really look like? All right, Council, we have the motion. I have a mover and a second. We're going to call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. All right, we're moving on to presentation consideration report from Committee of the Whole for July the 8th, 2026. Before we do our normal sections, Council, at last month's Committee of the Whole, during the CIP portion, I spoke about one item, and it was regarding the Simcoe County Auto Mayors, and that was on our June CIP. And in that CIP, there's actually a request for lower tier municipalities to support that. We did speak about, but we didn't actually formulate a motion to support that. I'd like to ask Council if we can ask Madam Clerk if we could move a motion tonight to support New Tecumseh's recommendation to support the Simcoe County Auto Mayor's recommendation, which we talked about last month. We just didn't formulate it saying that this council will support that. So I'd like to ask that, and I'm going to see if we can get a mover for that. Looks like Deputy Mayor will move that, seconded by Councillor Marchand. Madam Clerk, do you need anything more for that? No? Okay. Any comments and questions, Council? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? Thank you for that, Council, and that carries. Committee of the Whole. After Council meets, we move into Committee of the Whole. So what we discussed last month at Committee of the Whole, the section chair will present what the recommendations were last month. I'm going to ask Councillor Marchand, Finance and Corporate Services section, please.
Thank you. For the Committee of the Whole meeting for our section from July 8th, we had two consent agenda items. Both of them were memos. One was on Bill 9, the Municipal Accountability Act, and the second memo was on the Hydro One grant application. We had three matters for consideration. The first one was the budget timeline survey for 2027. The second one was the fire pumper internal loan document and report. And the third was the procedural bylaw updates. And finally, we had one referral item which was added to referral items to come back to us in future, and that was with regards to town vehicles at parades. Is there any I'll put the motion on the floor here, that the recommendations contained, as the chair, I move, and seconded by the vice chair, Councillor Waters, that the recommendations contained within the Committee of the Whole report related to the Finance Corporate Services section be approved.
Thank you, Councillor Marchand. Does anybody wish to pull anything for further comment or discussion? Councillor Waters.
I'd like to pull the part about the change of future meetings or to an afternoon meeting.
Okay, so we'll withdraw, we'll pull out the procedure bylaw aspect. The remaining we'll leave it. Does anybody wish to pull anything for further comment or discussion? Okay, so we're going to remove that item. We'll vote on the rest. We have a mover and a seconder. We'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Councillor Waters.
The council has been very diligent in trying to make sure that the public is represented in all their decisions. We had a discussion as to whether or not we should have afternoon meetings. We had 2 public meetings. The afternoon meeting, we had 0 people show up. The evening meeting, we only had 1. And of that 1 person that showed up, they asked for the evening hours. Our survey, we were given, last month, we were given little pie charts, which were not as easy to read. If you change them to percentages, it's a little easier. There was 149 visitors that went to the online site. 59.1 were indifferent or didn't participate. Only 61 people contributed, and of the 40.9% that did respond, 17.5% of them identified as being out of town. So we had 44.3 that were in favor of the 2 p.m., but 54.4% wanted to retain the evening hours. So if we're going to go with the majority of the people who participated, we should be staying with the evening. To go to an afternoon, even for trial period, is an insult to the people who have given their opinions and have clearly indicated that they wish to maintain evening hours. There was also 34.9% of the people that indicated they'd be more likely to attend in the afternoon. 27% were indifferent, but 38.1% said they'd be more likely to attend if it stayed in evening. So the public has spoken and said that they wish to make it evenings, and I think we should stick with evenings.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. Are you presenting a motion or are those comments?
That would be a motion. So craft the motion. So the motion would be that we maintain evening meetings as opposed to afternoon.
So Councillor Waters, the recommendation that came forth from last month's Committee of the Whole, you're suggesting a new motion. The new motion is you want an evening meeting as opposed to Committee of the Whole's recommendation of 2 p.m. Yep. I'll ask if you have a seconder for that motion. I'm just going to ask for a second and I'll open up for debate. I have a mover. Do I have a seconder?
I have a point of order, Your Worship. Just with respect to the amendment, we're dealing with a recommendation from the Committee of the Whole from last month. I note on the agenda the bylaw is to be considered later in the agenda. I'm just wondering if there's going to be an amendment. Should it be an amendment to the bylaw as opposed to an amendment to a recommendation? I just asked the question. So.
No, I think we're going to leave it with the motion because we can't vote on the bylaw until we have an approved motion. Before we have a recommendation, we'll deal with them separate. So do we have a seconder on this motion? Seconded by the Deputy Mayor. So I'm going to open up for comments and questions. Council, comments and questions. Councillor Vedabunker.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship, to the mover. Do we have a specific time that you were thinking that instead of the recommended time that the meeting time would move to?
I believe his motion said evening when I asked him to clarify that. So if we need to make another amendment, we can. We said evening in his initial motion. Further comments and questions? Okay. Councillor Waters, I appreciate bringing it forward tonight. I'm going to ask that we defeat it. I think we've had a lot of debate on this. We've provided public notice about this. We've provided public notice about the procedure bylaw, and it's published tonight. I appreciate your feedback about the surveys. The survey is only one component. I think we didn't articulate some of the other components. For example, staff participation. We also didn't really articulate about longevity and time and business. I think from my lens, I think we've all given a lot of debate. We've also said, let's do this as a trial. We're not carving this in stone. We said, let's do a trial and let's assess it. So with that being said, council, we're going to ask for we're going to call for the vote on the amended motion. All in favor? And opposed? And that's defeated. I'm going to go back to the initial motion. Madam Clerk, do you want me to read the initial motion that was in committee of the whole?
Thank you, Your Worship. I have the motion if you'd like me to read it.
If you can, please.
That the updated procedure bylaw be approved as presented, and that notice to the public regarding the intent to adopt the updated procedure bylaw be provided, and further that staff report back to council in 10 months regarding the meeting time trial period, and finally that staff be directed to bring forward the necessary bylaw for council approval.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Chair Marchand, can you move that?
I'll move that, yes.
It's moved by Councillor Marsh. I'm going to look for a seconder. Councillor DeRush. I'll open to common questions. Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that carries. Councillor DeRush, if you can help us through Plan Development Services section, please.
Certainly, thank you. The Planning and Community Development Services section had 2 consent agenda items. The first was a memo from the Director of Planning regarding the complete application public meeting for 18 Wright Court. And the second was the Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes for April 27, 2026. There was one matter for consideration, and that was a referral report for potential uses for 161 Church Street, and it was recommended that staff proceed to develop a management plan and that a restrictive covenant be prepared for registration. Only one item remains on the referral item list, and that is 161 Church Street and options for its future use, and I believe that will fall off tonight if this goes through. As the chair of the Planning Community Development Services section, I move the motion seconded by Vice Chair Bill Waters that the recommendation contained within the Committee of the Whole report related to section be approved.
Thank you very much, Councillor DeRush. Anybody wish to polling for further comment or discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Councillor Roux, please, on the Recreation Community Services section, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Meeting of Committee of the Whole for July 8, 2026 had 3 consent agenda items. 1 was the Museum and Heritage Committee minutes. 2 was Burkevale Community Use of School. And 3rd was the Merck Work Plan update. There were no matters for consideration. There were 5 future agenda items. 1 is the Gateway to Rotary Champlain-Wendat Park. 2nd was capital plan for PMCC. 3rd was a community use school partnership. 4th was a request for Anglican Parish. And 5 was the naming policy. So it is moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor LaRose that the recommendations contained within Committee of the Whole report related to Recreation and Community Service section be approved.
Thank you very much, Councillor Roux. Is anybody wish to polling for further comment or discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Councillor Vadabon-Kerr, please.
Thank you, Worship. I'll speak to the July 8th Transportation Environmental Services section meeting. We had 4 consent agenda items. We had the drinking water system inspection report for the La Paz drinking water system. We had the drinking water system inspection report for the Payette drinking water system. We had an update on the sewer use bylaw compliance program, and we had a report on the Philip H. Jones wastewater pollution control plant. We had 1 item for consideration, and that was pertaining to traffic calming measures and road safety initiative fund. And as members of council would recall, we did receive $142,000 from the provincial government to undertake 4 projects, and there was an opportunity to apply for funding for a little over $560,000 in funding, and staff had identified 13 projects that the municipality would undertake if we were successful in getting the grant. There is an application process, so council endorsed that. We had 2 referral items. There were no new referral items. The existing referral items are the septage disposal and treatment update, and we get regular updates on that, and then environmental controls for the sewage treatment plant. On behalf of the Deputy Mayor, I'm gonna move that Council approve the recommendations in the Transportation and Environmental Services section. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Vadabunker. Does anybody wish to pull anything for further comment or discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. 16 are presentations and consideration from the consideration of report for special committees. We have none. 17 motions, of which notice has been previously given. We have none. 18 is notice of motion. Does anybody, member of council, wish to present a notice of motion? Twisting my tongue tonight. Yeah, seeing none. We're going to move on to our consideration of bylaws. As per the Strong Mayor legislation passed by the province of Ontario on May the 1st, 2025, I, Mayor Doug Rawson, hereby decide to not exercise the power to veto the following bylaws passed at the Town of Penetanguishene Council meeting on August the 12th, 2026, in accordance with subsection 284.11.4A1 of the Municipal Act. Councillor, if I read the bylaws, anybody wish to pull it for further comment or discussion? Okay. So bylaws read that the following bylaws be enacted as bylaws of the Town of Penetanguishene, that they be read a first time, deemed to read a second and third time and carried, and as bylaw 2026-34, a bylaw regarding the internal loan from the Hydroelectric Commission Reserve Fund for the fire pumper replacement, Chief McNeil. And bylaw 2026-35, a bylaw regarding a procedural bylaw. It's moved by Deputy Mayor LaRue, seconded by Councillor LaRue. Further comments? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Until October, the Mayor and Deputy Mayor represent the community at the County of Simcoe. And the Deputy Mayor reports back to the community about the work happening at the County of Simcoe, and we can say that because it's all formalized now. Deputy Mayor, so if you can give an update.
Thank you, Your Worship. Our whole big update tonight will be very light. We had the month of July off. We didn't return back till council business till yesterday. We had a long meeting yesterday. It was about a whole lot of housekeeping items that needed to get done. As the mayor just alluded to, the province is switching our council size from 32 down to 16, so there was a lot of governance issues that needed to get taken care of on how it will happen in a couple of months. The only other thing that might be important to council, just for their information, is there's an affordable housing project on Zoo Park Road in Wasaga Beach. We're moving at phase 2 now. We have another chunk of land, so that took up a lot of time, but it was just nice to know that with the county still proceeding on the affordable housing stuff, this will be another 100 units going in. And I believe the county was looking at 20,000 units over the next 12 years, of which this year's almost gone, as we were told. So that's a lot of units, it's a lot of stuff, and that will help a lot of people. So with that, Your Worship, that will be it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any comments or questions, Council, for the Deputy Mayor? Thank you, Deputy Mayor. 21's announcements and inquiries. Councillor Roux.
Just a couple, Your Worship. First one is the 30th anniversary of La Clé in Penetanguishene. It's being celebrated on Saturday at the French Center at 1 p.m. this coming Saturday, and I do plan on attending that. And the other one is volunteer barbecue at beginning of early September, being held at the Penetanguishene Heritage and Centennial Museum.
Thank you, Councillor Roux. Councillor Vadabunker.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I have an inquiry of the clerk, and with the passage of the new procedural bylaw, perhaps she can enlighten council when our next council meeting is and at what time will it be starting.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Through Your Worship to Councillor Vadabunker. So with that, the passage of the bylaw, the next council meeting will be Wednesday, September 16th at 2 p.m.
Thank you. Subject
to in camera, a special council meeting.
Councillor Rush.
Thank you very much. I know that Councillor Roux mentioned a volunteer barbecue, but I'm not sure if you meant the annual seniors barbecue or if it's a different barbecue, but I'll talk about the annual seniors barbecue, which is Thursday, September 3rd. Is that the same one There you go. So Thursday, September 3rd from 11 to 2, and it is at the museum. And it's $7 per person, and that includes the barbecue lunch, the raffle prizes, live music from Upbeat Groove, and more importantly, a lot of fun. So come on out if you're free and able. Again, annual seniors barbecue, 11 to 2 on September 3rd, Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rush. I unfortunately have commitments that day and cannot make it. If you can please pass on my regards. I think a great event, and I appreciate that work. Any other members of council for their announcements or inquiries? COLs, announcements from staff.
Thank you, Worship. Nothing further.
With that, council, we're going to look for the confirmation bylaw. That the confirmation bylaw 2026-36 by signed and sealed by the mayor and clerks. Moved by Councillor Vedabunker, seconded by Councillor Mershaw. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. We're looking for a motion to adjourn at 8:29 p.m. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Waters. Thank you. We'll be back in 10 minutes with our committee of the whole. Good evening. We're going to call our committee of the whole meeting to order for Wednesday, August the 12th, 2026 at 8:41 p.m. We have a motion that the committee of the whole agenda for August the 12th, 2026 be approved as presented. It's moved by Councillor Vadabunker, seconded by Councillor Waters. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Council, does anybody have a declaration of pecuniary interest tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on. Number 4 is our delegations and presentations. We have none. Number 5 is our council information package. Council, anybody wish to point anything for further comment from the CIP? Seeing none. 6 is our transportation environmental services section. Councillor Vadabunker, please.
Thank you, Worship. On our transportation environmental services section agenda, we have no consent agenda items this evening. We have one matter for consideration, and it's the Navy Lane drainage improvements remedial work. And this pertains to a supplementary funding request to do some repairs to the Navy Lane drainage channel. And the report outlines the circumstances that have given rise to this and what has been done to date to address the potential or the issues with respect to the drainage channel. I understand that there might be some comments around the table with respect to this report. Do we need the director to add anything to what has been said or what's in the report at this point?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to ask that we refer this back to staff. I was a little, I felt there were some gaps, and I have had a conversation with the CEO, and I believe we're all aligned about a subsequent report coming next month. If we can just motion refer this back to staff and have it back next month, I'd be happy to move that.
Thank you, Worship. Is there a seconder for that motion, Deputy Mayor? So we have a motion to refer the report pertaining to the Navy Lane drainage improvements remedial work back to staff for further review and to bring back to council. So having heard the motion, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. On our referral list, we have 2 referrals. We have the septage disposal and treatment resolution, and we have the environmental controls for the sewage treatment plant. Are there any new items to add to the referral list? Any new items? Seeing none, I'll read the motion that the transportation and environmental services section endorse the following additional existing referrals to upcoming agendas and staff. And we heard the 2. May I have a mover, please? Deputy Mayor, seconder, Councillor Waters. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Any questions from the media or the public online?
Thank you. We have no one online this evening.
Thank you. Your Worship, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Vadabunker. Council, my apologies. I'm a little off tonight. I missed last month, and I'm off kilter tonight. So 5 was council information package. I asked if anybody had anything to say. We didn't move the motion. So the motion reads that the council information package having been given due consideration be received for information. It's moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Marshaw. Comments and questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. My apologies again. Amateur night for me. 7, Section B, Recreation Community Services section. Councillor LaRue, please.
Thank you, Worship. Under the consent agenda for Recreation and Community Services, we have one item, and that the following consent agenda item having been given due consideration be received from information, and that is the Wellbeing and Accessibility Committee meeting minutes. Questions, concerns? None. Mover, Deputy Mayor, seconder, Councillor Waters, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Under matters for consideration, we have one, which is the cemetery maintenance requests. And that reads that the request from the Anglican Parish for municipal assistance with cemetery lawn maintenance be received, and that staff be directed to include cemetery sustainability and the need for provincial support for programs as part of future provincial delegation requests to the Province of Ontario and/or Bereavement Authority of Ontario. And we have received an extensive report from our director. And does anyone have any questions or concerns? Then being none, Councillor Vadabunker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And it was quite an extensive report, and I really appreciate the work that staff put into looking at options and trying to determine a way that it could be accommodated without undue impact on staffing levels and then costs to the municipality. It's just unfortunate that the Anglican Church finds itself in the situation that it is, and hopefully that something through the town's efforts can see some funding flow their way to assist with the maintenance of this very historical cemetery. So that was my only comment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Further comments or concerns? There being none, mover, Deputy Mayor, and Councillor DeRush, all in favor, and that is carried. And under referrals to upcoming agenda staff, we have the Gateway to Rotary Champlain-Wendat, Capital Plan for PMCC, the Community Youth School Partnership, requests from Anglican Parish, and the naming policy. Are there a number that can be removed from there?
Yeah, I believe the Community School Partnership was on the Committee of the Whole report that Council adopted tonight. I believe we can remove that.
And what about this one that we just discussed? Does it go on to the next? Yeah. So does anyone have any more that they want to add or subtract? No? Mover, Deputy Mayor, and Council Waters, all in favor. That is carried. Question period from media and public. There is none. Back to you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor Roux. Councillor DeRush, Section C, Planning and Community Development Services section, please.
Thank you very much. So the Planning Community Development Services section has 3 consent agenda items. Does anyone want to speak to any of these before I read the motion? Seeing none, the motion reads that the following consent agenda items, having been given due consideration, be received for information. A, complete application public meeting regarding Champlain Shores subdivision. B, planning and community development second quarter update. And C, the changes to parkland dedication. Can I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Marchand, seconded by Councillor Leroux. We'll go to the vote. All in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. We have no matters for consideration, and we do still have one remaining item on the referral list, and that is 161 Church Street that I believe we can take off now that we've dealt with it. So at this point, that the Planning Community Development Services section endorse the following additional existing referrals to upcoming agenda and staff, and there are none. So I'll get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Reda-Mulcair, seconded by Councillor Waters. All in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. Question period for media and public. Do we have anything? No, we do not. So I'll get it back to you, Mayor Rawson.
Thank you very much, Councillor DeRush. Section D, Finance and Corporate Services section. Councillor Marchand, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. For Finance and Corporate Services, under consent agenda, we have 3 items. Does anyone want to pull and discuss any of those consent agenda items? Your Worship?
Just a couple of comments. Carrie, thanks again for the financial summaries. I think they're great, and it really reiterates what Jay mentioned tonight, so thank you for that. And Chief McNeil, thank you very much for the updates to the Fire Master Plan. I think it was fulsome and updates on our previous discussion, so thank you for the work on that.
Thank you, Your Worship, and we certainly talked about that in section about the fire report, and we do really appreciate it coming back to council and seeing the progress that's being done, so thank you for that. So I'll read the motion that the following consent agenda items, having been given due consideration, be received for information: the 2026 Q2 financial summary, the 2025 Building Department annual financial report, and the memo from the Director of Emergency Services, Fire Chief, which is the Fire Master Plan and the Fire Master Plan review. Can I get a mover? Councillor DeRush, seconded Councillor Waters. All those in favor? That motion carries. Thank you. We have a few matters for consideration this evening. So the first matter is the 2025 year-end financial information. I will read the motion to put that on the floor, and then we can answer any questions that there is. That the 2025 year-end financial information report be received for information, and that the 2025 non-cash transaction as reported in the 2025 audit financial statements and the projected 2026 non-cash transactions be approved without amending the budgets. And finally, that the 2025 reserves and reserves and reserve funds continuity schedule be approved. Can I get a mover for that? Councillor Waters, seconder. Councillor Duresh, any comments or question with regards to that information? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you. The next item that we have is the 2025 year-end surplus. I'll put that motion on the floor and then open it up for any discussion. That the 2025 taxation surplus of $579,730 be allocated to the multi-use recreational center reserve. Can I get a mover? Councillor Leroux, seconded by Councillor Bedevancourt. Any questions or comments with regards to that report? Your Worship.
Thank you. Again, thank you, Madam Treasurer, for this report and the work that's been done. I did have a conversation with our CEO this week regarding this, and I just want to highlight the work that's been done with building our reserves and the last motion Madam Chair just read about the reserve report. We're in good shape. All of our reserve accounts, we're doing a good job. The auditor mentioned something about the great work we're doing. I want to just highlight a couple things I've been thinking about over the last little while, and it came a little more prevalent tonight when Mr. Yancey was speaking to us. And I believe Councillor Waters brought this up as well. And we talked about accounts receivable around taxation. And he talked about a trend. Mr. Yancey talked about a trend, not here, but across the county. And the trend was about the economic reality and about the impacts of the economy. And he talked about our receivables was around 8%, and now it's grown to 11%. And I have talked to people who are telling us it's getting to be difficult. It's getting to be hard. And later tonight, we're going to read about the 2027 draft budget, and we're asking staff the recommendations coming at 4.2%. And I'm just worried about making it more and more unaffordable for people. And I'm concerned about that. And the more we hear about it, and our auditor told us that tonight, that there's a trend happening, not just here, but it's happening across the province. And how are we really contributing to that? I don't know the answer, Madam Chair, but when I see that we've got a surplus, and I think it's the great work we're doing together, the recommendation putting this towards a capital project, I think is the right thing to do. I think we need to continue building our capital assets. But I'm also worried about a budget coming forward for operating next year at 4.2%, and what's that continually going to be an impact to the community? You know, again, the 8% to 11, does that mean next year the 11 is going to become 15%? And I just want to throw it out there that maybe we should take some of this surplus dollars and put into our tax stabilization reserve to lessen any impact from our operating budget when our new council of the community, let's set them up for success. So I just wanted to throw out that comment, Madam Chair, and I'd love to hear our colleagues' feedback on this. I know staff have done some work on this as well. I know a lot of work, and this council's given some direction about building capital, and we've done that work with the reserves. But really tonight, I was making comments when Mr. Yancey was speaking, and that's kind of what my mind went to when he was speaking. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other comments or questions by members of council? Deputy LaRose.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had some very similar thoughts this week. Just one quick question. What was the rationale for wanting to take the entire surplus to one location as opposed to spreading it around to some projects throughout the town? It was tax money that was collected this year. I know at RCS we talked about some dead trees in some parks, and our director indicated that they had spent all the money in the budget at that. When Councillor Bedevancourt and I were at our transportation meeting, we have a sizable problem at the Navy Lane for $350,000. So I was just wondering what was the rationale? Did it have to go to that one item, or could it be spread around to some other needs within the community?
Thank you. Carrie, can you comment on that, please? Thanks.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Deputy Mayor LaRose. I think based on last year's council comments regarding last year's surplus and other reports related to the multi-use recreation center, that it is important to this council. So my recommendation was that based on the fact that under the Collier plan and the steps moving forward that council had approved over the next 2 years, 1.35 million out of the MERC reserve. So I just felt like recommending to put some of it back into the MERC reserve. But certainly, as always, left an option for council to direct staff as they wish. Yeah.
Thank you. Councilor Bedevanker?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Deputy Mayor, for the question and the response, because I was going to comment and just remind everybody that at last year's discussion, we did have a lengthy conversation about identifying the MERC as a priority for this municipality and that we needed to build that reserve. We had 800,000 and change, and with this we're at $1.3 million, and we're probably looking at a $60 million build, and we've got to make dedicated commitments through opportunities like our surplus to build that reserve. And you know, the question went through my mind as well, Mr. Deputy Mayor, with respect to the recommendation in the report. I felt that if staff were putting this forward, that they looked at the other reserve funds and felt that the other reserve funds were of sufficient balances that they could comfortably recommend this, that they weren't recommending that we put some money in the police stabilization reserve and the tax stabilization reserve and the tree cutting or tree preservation reserve. They said, we've looked at it, we feel that this is the best spot for it. So I was pleased to see that because it's reflective of this council's comments a year ago. I just wanted to address the mayor's comment about the tax rate, and I think that we're going to get into that probably with the next report, but our tax rate stabilization reserve right now is at $326,000. So it's not a huge amount, but there's money there that to assist if necessary with respect to addressing the potential tax rate for 2027. So I'm comfortable with that amount in that reserve. So I will be supporting the recommendation as outlined. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, Councillor Leroux?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too will be supporting. You all know how I feel about the MERC, and there are other areas, as Councillor Bedevanker has indicated, where we have reserves for other matters, and I think that we have to consider the decision to move forward is imperative, and so I also will be supporting this motion.
Thank you. Any other members of council? So before I call on to the vote, certainly this was a discussion at section as well in terms of some of the reasoning behind it and really from direction from council. But certainly, you know, we did talk about going to the tax stabilization fund last year in terms of how we look at setting our budget. And I think this leads us into the next topic that we are looking to provide guidance on the budget. So appreciate all the comments. At this time, I will call for a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Okay, so the next, apologize, I got different things open on my laptop here. Okay, so the next item on the agenda, my apologies. So the next item is the 2027 budget guidelines. I'll read the motion and put it on the floor for discussion. That the 2027 budget guidelines be approved as presented, and that staff be directed to prepare the first draft of the town's 2027 budget in accordance with the town's budget procedure bylaw, the 2027 budget timeline, and the 2027 budget guidelines. And finally, that the first draft of the town's 2027 budget be presented with no greater than a 4.2% net tax impact, which includes a 1% infrastructure levy. Can I get a motion, a mover for that? Councillor Darash, seconder. Councillor Bedevanker. I'll open it up to questions and comments from members of council. Your worship, go ahead.
Just a clarity question. I've asked this, I think, every year. I'm hopeful when staff present our operating budget, not the capital budget, that reserves aren't part of the recommended 4.2 total presented operating budget. I believe council should give that direction. I think we should be the ones that decide if we're going to use the reserve or not. So I'm wondering, when the budget's presented, will staff be doing the fine-tune work? And then the options will be before council decide on the application of those reserves.
Carrie, can you answer that? Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair, to your worship. We did receive that direction last budget process, and I believe I incorporated that into last year's budget guideline report, as well as it would be in this report as well, stating that staff won't be proactive or preemptive in terms of utilizing reserves to get the tax rate down. We would leave that up to council's discretion during the budget process. So just to confirm that that's in the budget policy guidelines now, and will continue like that.
Thank you, Carrie. Anything further, Your Worship? Any other members of council? Yes, Deputy LaRose.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wonder again, what was the rationale for 4.2? Is that a number that we're working towards, or is that just a number that you guys want and then you'll work towards what 4.2 produces?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Deputy Mayor LaRose. No, it's not. It's not a number we want. It's not. We haven't done our budget yet, so we don't know what our budget is. The 4.2 is an analysis and a calculation of municipal price index based on all of the different factors that are outlined in this report. So staff, when we start the budget process, have to work around this number, or whatever number it is that council directs us to bring our first draft of the budget in. So it has nothing to do with how much money we have to operate currently or need in the future to operate in our budgets. We haven't even gotten to that step of the budget process yet.
Any other members of council? Councilor Betancourt.
Thank you, and I appreciate this report, and I appreciate this report coming at this time of year. So with respect to the increase in the budget, it's 3.2, and then there's a 1% capital levy of 1%, if I understand that correctly. One of the things that I was looking for and I didn't see, and maybe it's something that will be coming later, is with respect to any staffing requests. Is that something that is in the works or is happening behind the scenes, or there's nothing coming forward for 2027?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Betancourt. The staffing requests will go through, we've just kicked off our budget process departmentally, and the staffing requests will be as per the staffing plan that was recently presented to council, the 10-year staffing plan. That will go through our budget process at a staff level, along with HR and the CAO, and bringing forward staffing requests along with community financial contribution requests, as well as the first draft of the budget.
Follow up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I may, just a follow up. So that is all within the 3.2% guideline.
The staffing requests are not part of 3.2%. This would just be the cost of the municipal costs, the municipal services, and the cost to run those services based on the economic factors that we've analyzed in terms of the upcoming year. I think I did put a couple major drivers of some things that we do know, which is we are in collective, we have commitments through collective agreements, etc. So those are the kinds of things that are known and that are in here, forming that 3.2%.
So if I read the recommendation, that the first draft of the town's 2027 budget be presented with no greater than a 4.2 net tax impact, which includes a 1% infrastructure levy. Based on what I heard you say in response to my question, the staffing request might be on top of that? It's not as part of that direction?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Veta-Boncourt. That's the way we've always done it in the past, and as far as I know, we're continuing to do that. Staffing requests do not go in the first draft of the budget until Council recommends, approves the staffing request, and directs that it go into the next draft of the budget, because obviously there's a financial impact with each of those decisions.
Thank you.
Your Worship, you had a follow-up?
Yeah, thank you. Again, I think, Carrie, to you and the team, I think you and we are setting up our next council for success. The auditor identified that tonight. Our surplus identified that. The financial statements, our policy, like we're setting up this next term of council with success. So good work. I guess my comment is when I look at this and to echo off what Councillor Veta-Boncourt is saying, the 4.2% involves a lot of different variables, right? We're talking about capital, we're talking about operating. We're not talking about new staffing. We're talking about existing. Council will direct what that looks like. The one variable here is policing costs. And Madam Treasurer, you did identify in here the OPP contracts 11% cap. My understanding from our last delegation to the Solgen was that was time limited to last year. They did state that this year's not going to be capped at 11. It's possible. It could be 12, could be 24, could be 3. I'm wondering, just for clarity standpoint, what if we backed out the policing number? Because with fairness, if we say this 4.2 today and you get presented a 14% policing bill, you're going to have a hard time coming in at 4.2. I wonder if, to Councillor Veta-Boncourt, we're saying in theory 3.2 is your operating budget, 1% is a capital, and then the other anomalies will be policing costs. We'll see what that costing is, and then what your new requests may be, and council can make that informed decision based on those different variables. I don't know if that helps or hinders, but I think there's a lot of little moving parts, and I'm a little concerned when I see policing here, and we're saying what this looks like, 1.6, 1% from policing stabilization. There's a lot of variables we don't know. And the way I read this motion based on what Councillor Veta-Boncourt is saying is we're going to see a 4.2, or sorry, new council's going to see a 4.2, but what if these other variables come out different? So I'm suggesting a back out policing, but I'll leave it to you to decide.
CAO Elise, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My suggestion for committee would be to leave it as is, and here's my rationale. There are a number of other indicators there that we have essentially done our best job at estimating, and some of those others may come in at different. I'm just concerned that it might create some unintended consequences by backing out the policing. Obviously, it's up to committee what they wish to do, but I think if we get notification from the province that the policing is going to come in at something astronomical that's going to materially impact that 4.2, then we would be back in front of committee or council as soon as we can. There are other indicators, there are other variables there too that may, you know, insurance, for example, may not be 3.4, it might be come in at 7%. So just as a best guess, best estimate, my suggestion for committee is to leave it as is, but I appreciate the mayor's comments and understand where he's coming from.
Other members of council, any additional questions or comments? Just a couple comments, and I think, you know, this is the process that we followed the last several years. There's been feedback provided in terms of how we're ensuring that the guidelines have taken comments and from council and direction. You know, the example of staffing or not making assumptions around pulling from reserve funds, and so all of those things were taken into consideration. This really is a starting point, so that we have that we are providing good direction to staff around coming to this next term of council with something as a starting point. Certainly, you know, remember the first council, you know, when you first come in and that's that first budget, there was a lot, but this team is, you know, sets every new member of council and sets us up as council in a good way in terms of the information and ensuring that we understand our financials. And we are in a good position. We heard that from the auditors as well this evening. And certainly, I think we're all mindful about what any kind of taxation increase is going to look like in terms of for our community and what we're seeing across the province as well. So if there's no proposed amendments, we do have the motion on the floor. And at this time, I'm going to call for a vote if there's no other additional comments. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you for the very healthy dialogue and information as well from staff, so thank you for that. Finally, we have the final item under matters for consideration, and that's council remuneration. And I'll read the motion and we'll put that on the floor so that we can have a discussion. That once that, well, the council remuneration municipal review for 2026, that once the 2026 cost of living adjustment is applied, council remuneration be adjusted to the 55th percentile of the municipal comparator 2026 market as identified within the report effective January 1st, 2027, and that the cost of living adjustment applied to the town's non-union employees is also applied to council and that the town's non-union employees is also applied to council remuneration effective January 1st, 2027, January 1st, 2028, January 21st, 2029, and 2030, and further that staff bring forward a bylaw for council approval. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Your Worship, seconder, I'm sorry, Councillor Leroux. Any questions or comments from council? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. Oh, sorry. One opposed, one opposition? And the motion carries. Okay. Thank you. And finally, referrals for upcoming agenda to staff. We currently have 2 items. The procedural bylaw update actually can be removed this evening because that was approved. We have 1 item, town vehicles town vehicle usage for parades. Is there anything that anyone would like to add or remove? Your Worship, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to ask that we add a referral, and I would say no rush. Next term of council, staff can present a Q1, Q2. I have talked to CEO, so he's aware of what I'm looking to create. Performance review of the Chief Administrative Officer, and that's one of the functions of council, and we're starting that process. And we're always looking at positive ways to do better and provide iterative feedback and improve. Part of good governance is that we get feedback on us. And what my referral is, Madam Chair, is that we ask staff to help create a policy document, a framework, a template, a tool that's guided in best practices about feedback on how we as governors can do a better job. I don't know what that looks like, Madam Chair, but there are frameworks out there that we can take. I know from my lens, I would welcome feedback, and I would love that we ask staff to do a little bit of environmental scan, see what's available, and present something back. So the next term of council has something to learn and grow from. So that's what I'd like to move. Thank you.
Okay. Do we need a seconder for that, please? Is anyone looking to second that? Yes. Councillor Leroux. So we have a mover and seconder. Sorry, just from a process, do I just add it and do the whole referral, or do I need that one voted on first? I apologize. That one voted on first. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, that one carries. So I will read that that the Finance and Corporate Services section endorse the following additions and existing referral to upcoming agenda to staff, the town vehicle for parades, the guidance document on governance feedback. Can I get a mover and seconder for that? Mover, Councillor Waters, seconder, Councillor Leroux. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. I don't believe there's any questions from the media or public. Thank you. Back to you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Council. I think we had a great meeting tonight. So we will be back at our next meeting. I think you said, Madam Clerk, September the 12th, 16th? 16th at 2 p.m. The whole big vote, I'm sure the whole will be official after tonight. Council, we will be at AMO next week. Staff have done a great job preparing us for AMO. We'll be presenting a number of topics and participating in educational sessions, so looking forward to that and putting the community first, so thank you for that. With that being said, we're looking for a motion to adjourn at 9:16 p.m. Moved by Councillor Waters, second by Councillor Vadabonker. Shoot. Staff's just finishing it together. I'm sure you'll be communicated tomorrow at the latest, early Friday, but the final pieces are being done, and a lot of great work is done on that. CEO Lees, anything further?
No, Your Worship, you're spot on. Things will be ready, hopefully before Friday, but Friday at the latest.
And Councillor LaRue, first time that I'm aware of in a while, like we've got a number of delegations with multiple municipalities. So we're going with, I believe, most of our member municipalities for the SSEA and the Conservation Authority Act, and regarding policing costs at correctional centers. So a lot of work's been done with our other neighboring municipalities to do that. So kudos for the work that's being done. We again are doing health, so a lot of work's been done. 9:17 motion